If you're a high-achieving woman who's exhausted by stress, stuck in constant conflict, and tired of being overlooked in the exact rooms where you know you were born to lead, then this podcast is for you. So here's your host, Pallavi Jain.
Welcome, my friends, to her Boss Brain podcast. I'm your host, Pallavi Jain. After 20 years in HR leadership with global organizations, I have seen firsthand how relationships and conflicts sabotage even the most talented leaders. Let me ask you, have you ever been in an argument where you could literally feel yourself losing control? Like your emotions grabbed the steering wheel and your logic just vanished. Well, that's exactly what happened to Sarah, a resort manager at a sunny coastal hotel in Florida. Sarah oversees a 100% team. Every morning, she greets guests with that polished smile, the one that says, "Welcome to paradise." But behind that smile, she's running on fumes. Her assistant just quit, corporate rolled out new targets, and her phone hasn't stopped buzzing since 6 a.m. So when one of her front desk staff accidentally double books a VIP suite, she loses it. Her voice gets sharp, her tone cold, and she literally screamed, "Why do I have to take care of everything?" The room goes quiet. 10 minutes later, now guilt hits like a wave. She apologizes, but something deeper inside her feels cracked. It's not about the mistake, it's about the drain. When our brain is overloaded, our prefrontal cortex, the part that regulates emotions and empathy, literally goes offline. Neuroscience shows us that chronic stress reduces activity in this area, making us reactive rather than responsive. So when Sarah snapped, it wasn't a character flaw, it was a chemical hijack. It's your brain, trying to protect you just in the wrong way. Remember, I've said this earlier, your thoughts aren't just in your head, they are in your bloodstream. In our last episode, The Hidden Link Between Your Relationships and Resilience, we learned how relationships impact us, how we need to be intentional about who we are surrounding ourselves with, those connections, and how we are showing up for them also. Today, we will talk about what's really happening inside your brain during conflict and how to get back in the driver's seat using the ATM framework. Remember that glowing triangle we talked about last time? When your brain, mind disconnect, that third leg of that triangle, your relationships, that wobbles too. But when you center yourself, you stabilize the entire triangle again. Imagine this. Have you ever learned to drive in one of those cars with two steering wheels? One for the student and one for the instructor. So imagine you are the student driver, the emotional brain, wired for speed, instinct, and survival. And your instructor is your rational brain, calm, logical, trying to keep everyone safe. Now, when you hit a high stress moment, a tough conversation, a disagreement, your emotional brain slams the gas while your rational brain hits the brakes. Result, the car jerks, you feel the tension, and that's the exact moment when your brain's integration snaps. The two drivers are out of sync. You're not really responding to what's happening right now. You are now reacting to old data, past hurts, fears, stories your brain stored long ago to protect you. And that's what your emotional brain is trying to do, keep you safe. It's not bad. It's just working from survival mode. But when it takes over completely, it's like trying to drive with your foot, glued to the gas pedal, and eventually you crash. To move through conflict smoothly, your emotional and rational brain have to work together. One feeling, one thinking, but both communicating. Because that's when you start using current data, not just emotional overdrive. And when that happens, your inner driving lessons turns into something beautiful. Not a wild ride of reactions, but a smooth journey of awareness, connection, and choice. Let me ask you, have you ever noticed that the people who get the shortest version of you are often the ones who deserve your best? The truth is, relationships don't drain us by themselves. What drains us is showing up disconnected from ourselves again and again, because of which unconsciously we give permission to these relationships to impact us. But here's the empowering truth: with awareness and practice, you can train your brain to hit pause and choose your next move with inner integration. It is possible. And I'll tell you how I learned this. You won't believe it, but from my 12-year-old daughter. One evening, we were playing a little family game. Each of us wrote two questions on slips of paper, we folded them, and we tossed them into a bowl. You pick a slip, you answer honestly, no judgment, no consequences. Now, when my turn came, the question I drew said, "What is one thing you'd like to change about yourself and why?" One of my kids wrote that question, right? So I smiled, and honestly, I had to answer. So I said, "I want to be more centered and peaceful so I don't get angry quickly." My daughter looked at me. She had that pause for 2 to 3 seconds, and she says, "Mama, when I get angry, I ask myself, what am I really angry about?" Literally, I froze. Because that one question, what am I really angry about, is pure neuroscience. It's genius. And this is why it works for her, because the moment she asks that, her emotional brain pauses, the storm quiets, and she steps out of the reaction and into reflection. That question does the first and hardest step of the ATM framework. A, arrive in the present moment. And now, once she has arrived, then comes the T, take responsibility for what really matters here: the relationship, the response, being right. What is it? And finally, M, make a conscious choice. And just like that, a potential explosion turns into connection. That's collaboration in motion. And when you do this, your brain's CEO, the prefrontal cortex, comes back online. The true drivers start talking again. Chaos turns into clarity. That's brain integration in real time. I want you to go back and actually listen to episode 2 and 4, where we talk about the negative bias of your brain and clouding perception. Basically, we talked about how our brain is wired to remember the negative, which directly impacts our current perception. Do you know, in relationships, it takes 5 positive interactions to overcome the effect of a single negative? So you need to consciously take a moment when someone did something nice for you, gave you a compliment, being kind to you, by staying in that moment a little longer and being grateful about it. That way you're savoring it and you're literally creating positive memories that your brain would have totally skipped, as it is busy storing the negative ones for its sole job of your protection. Now, let us talk about the conflicts that don't go away, the ones where you feel, I do everything, I have tried everything, and they still don't care. A lot of our conflicts, misunderstandings, and hard feelings foster because we think we are doing so much and the other person is not reciprocating or just doesn't care. Now, whenever you have this feeling where you feel you're giving so much to a relationship, connection, and the person just is not responding, still constantly complaining, or is unhappy, these are 3 things I want you to reflect on. Number 1, it's not always what you do, it's how you do it. You might be doing the right things, but if you're doing them from resentment or fatigue, that energy comes through louder than your words. So you need to move your focus from what all you're doing to how you're doing it. Number 2, check your cloudy beliefs. If your brain expects rejection, it will find it. So instead of pre-deciding that someone won't get it or will not support you, apply the ATM. Arrive, take responsibility, and make a conscious choice without the old baggage. And then the 3, stop over-explaining. People are at different awareness levels. You can respect someone without agreeing with them. That's emotional maturity. Now, as a leader, showing up intentionally for the connections you're making and impact you're creating for your teams is profound. Let me take you back to Sarah for a moment to explain what I'm really saying, because a few weeks after that meltdown at the front desk, Sarah actually attended one of my Lead from Within workshop. She's a great friend of mine now. But during one of our reflection exercises, we walked through the ATM framework. Arrive, take responsibility, make a conscious choice. And when she paused to arrive, really arrive, she realized something powerful. Her biggest stress wasn't coming from her team, it was coming from the belief that she had to do everything herself. That belief had been running quietly in the background for years, driving her to fix, control, and overfunction. And it made perfect sense because her emotional brain was operating from survival mode, trying to protect her from things falling apart. But that very protection was disconnecting her from her team and from herself. After she talked to me, Sarah decided to experiment. She started taking 60 seconds before every team meeting just to center and to arrive in the present moment. And instead of jumping in to solve every problem, she began asking questions like, what do you think we should do? Or she would say, how would you handle this if I weren't here? Now, I have to say, at first, her team was really confused. They didn't know what to do with that because they were so used to her taking charge that they hesitated. Within a few weeks, something shifted. Her calm, that grounded presence began to spread. People started thinking ahead, owning outcomes, and offering ideas before she even asked. They wanted to step up. Because when she stopped assuming that she had to do everything, she made space for her team to believe they could. In that moment, her trust became their confidence. Her pause became their permission. And here's where the science comes in. A study from UCLA found that emotions, especially stress and calm, spread faster than we realize. When one person in a team is anxious, others' brainwaves literally start mirroring that anxiety within minutes. That's called emotional contagion. So when Sarah led from stress, her team absorbed it. The tension, the urgency, the pressure to be perfect. But when she began leading from calm, when she arrived before reacting, the entire room changed. Meetings became lighter, communication improved, and performance quietly, steadily rose. Because people don't do their best work when they're surviving, they do it when they feel seen and safe. That's emotional leadership. And I know this word is deeply misunderstood. It is not about being soft or touchy, because leadership is not about managing others. It's about regulating your own internal state first. When you lead from depletion, you unconsciously teach your team to normalize burnout. But when you lead from within, when you pause and you choose consciously, you set a new tone. And that's exactly what Sarah did. The same brain that once hijacked her reactions became her greatest tool for connection. Not by pushing harder, but by pausing first and understanding how this is really working. So when you activate your boss brain, your inner intelligence becomes your guide. The more you practice the ATM, even in small moments, the more automatic it becomes. So next time your heart starts pounding and that integration is lost, I want you to pause and ask yourself, what am I really angry about? What am I really nervous about? Arrive, take responsibility, make a conscious choice. You're not just rewiring your reaction, you're reprogramming your relationships because collaboration doesn't start with others. It starts within you, my friend. Now, if today's conversation sparked something for you, imagine the breakthroughs your whole team could have when we dive into the science and tools together. If you'd like to explore bringing this work into your company or leadership event, you can connect with me at pallavi-jain.com. I'd love to help your leaders activate their boss brain to move them from conflict to collaboration. Let's do this. See you next time.
So that's it for today's episode of our Boss Brain podcast. Head on over to Apple Podcasts, iTunes, or wherever you listen and subscribe to the show. One lucky listener every single week that posts a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes will win a chance in a grand prize drawing to win a $25,000 private VIP day with Pallavi herself. Be sure to head on over to her bossbrainpodcast.com and pick up a free copy of Pallavi's gift and join us next time.